So now that we finished our overview of Java intermediate operations, it's time to turn our attention to the end of the stream, the end of the line, which are Java terminal operations. And I'll start by giving you an overview of what a terminal operation is, and then we'll start exploring these in more detail. So clearly, the word terminal means terminate something, like the famous Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. And as with the intermediate operations, the discussions we're going to have about terminal operations apply both to parallel and sequential streams. So everything you learn here will be applicable to both. And as before, we'll use our simple search stream program as the case study. So every stream in Java Streams has to contain a terminal operation, otherwise nothing ever happens. And terminal operations are distinguished from intermediate operations by the fact that they return or they yield a non-stream result. So again, if you want to know how do you differentiate terminal from intermediate operations, if you look at the stream interface, the methods that are in the stream interface that take streams and return streams are intermediate operations. The other ones that take streams and don't return streams are terminal operations. This particular set of examples that deal with all the terminal operations we're going to cover shows up in my EX12 folder in my GitHub repository. Remember, there can only be one terminal operation. So let's start by talking about the simpler terminal operations, the ones that don't return a value at all. And that would be, of course, forEach and forEach ordered. And forEach and forEach ordered are kind of interesting because they only have side effects. We've talked before about the fact that in functional programming, you typically don't want to have side effects. That's kind of the goal. But forEach and forEach ordered are kind of the special case. They're the exception that proves the rule, as people like to say, in a somewhat confounding and contradictory way. But basically, they don't have results. They don't return results. They have side effects. So here's a very simple example. We've looked at this before. We go ahead and apply our simple program to read the characters in Hamlet and get rid of stuff that doesn't start with H, capitalize things consistently, sort them, and then we print the results out. And the way we do that is by using the forEach terminal operation, which kicks off all the intermediate operations, and then as a side effect, we'll print the results to the standard output by using the system.out::println method reference. There are also other terminal operations that return reduced results. And collect and reduce are the most obvious ones, but there are other ones as well, such as find first and find any and so on. So what collect and reduce will do, as we'll see later, is they're going to take the results of the stream and reduce them down to a single result when all is said and done. As we mentioned before, collect and reduce work with terminal operations. Collect and reduce terminal operations work seamlessly with parallel streams just as they do with sequential streams. And we'll talk about that probably next week. Remember that terminal operations, in addition to doing whatever they do, either with or without side effects, also trigger all the other lazy intermediate operations. So that all that means it's just a fancy way of saying nothing happens until a terminal operation is reached. And when we talk about reactive streams later in the course, which will probably take a month or so to get to at this stage, we'll see how the reactive streams also have something sort of akin to terminal operations. They don't call them terminal operations, but it's usually some variant of subscribe, and that is also used because reactive streams are also lazy. So the processing doesn't start until the terminal operation, the last operation, is encountered. So that's the end of the overview of terminal operations. As you'll see, there's actually a tremendous amount of cool, sophisticated stuff happening with some of the terminal operations, and we'll get to those as soon as we can.